Welcome, everybody, to Stay Curious. I'm your host, Mark Marquette, broadcasting live from the American Space Museum studios in downtown Titusville, Florida, where it is a Chamber of Commerce fall day here. Low 80s, low humidity, and just a wonderful feeling to be in the peninsula. I know a lot of you along the fruited plain are having some bad weather, rain, cold, so forth like that. So come on down. I'll tell you a bunch of hotels you can stay in, or maybe show you a realtor or two there that you might want to move down here. But Marty Winkle, my co-producer, is on the other side of the camera. Hi, Marty. Good to see you today on a Friday. Uh, Go ahead, buddy. How's everything been today?
Good day so far today, and expect the rest of the day to be good.
Yeah, I do too. Always sorry to be a few minutes late, but it's because I don't want to look stupid and have to look up a fact check or two, or in this case, grab an artifact out of our museum that we're going to talk about a really interesting failure of NASA that rocked them to the core almost at 1960 when we were trying to get a Redstone rocket off the ground with the Mercury capsule in it. Got a special little behind the scenes of uh, shuttle orbiter thanks to Steve Jokums. Hi, Steve. He and his wife visited visited the Museum of Flight in Seattle a number of times, and Bert Dick talked about it yesterday, and we look here at the trainer, the exact replica of a space shuttle that every astronaut that flew, the commanders and pilots certainly become familiar with this, and all the other crew members also trained in it as well. Thank you, Steve, for that personal story. And then who's orbiting Earth, and for how long, and what's going on up there? The only place you get that information is here on Stay Curious. Come on, admit it. Nobody else is talking about how many people are orbiting Earth. What about those Chinese that came back in the spaceship that just went up with the new crew? Okay. And there's a damaged Shenzhou spacecraft attached to the Tiangong. What are they doing about that? And what about the Russian uh, MS-27 that's been up there for about 6 months with Johnny Kim, an American? When's that going to swap out? Well, just stay curious, and old Mark's going to tell you all about it on a Friday today. So let's kick it off with our sponsor, Hyatt Place. Hyatt Place, what a sponsor they've been, Marty. The American Space Museum. They know you, all the people by face there. It's just 4 miles from here on the 405 intersection that goes in, and Route 1, 405 goes into the Kennedy Space Center. You've all driven that. The Boeing building's right beside them, and they become our home away from home for 4 shuttle fests, and we did a successful memorabilia show there. And if you're coming downtown, down here to Titusville, that's a good, affordable place to stay. Uh, and just let me know. I might be able to get you the employee rate for a day or two there. So, Hyatt Place, thank you so much for what you do. Sarah is the events coordinator, and they've got a new manager, Nick, and they're just excited to always embrace the astronomy and space community there. So, check out Hyatt Place. We're also having, if you're local, peanut butter and jelly days here to support the local food banks. One free admission per jar of peanut butter or jelly. We're going to do that through January 31st. Everyone is cheery and everyone's helping everybody through December, but then January, kind of the bottom may fall out on some people when they really need help. And we did this a few years ago. The idea of our late leader, Karen Conklin, who passed away of cancer a year ago in August, and so we're happy to continue this tradition. We handed off about 100 jars, 50 of each maybe, to a food bank the last time we did this. So if you're local, even if you don't want the admission, just drop off. We will make sure any food you drop off here will get to the food banks for the needy. And we will be closed, of course, on Thanksgiving Day next week, November 27th, open Friday and Saturday, November 28th and 29th. We're going to follow this same pattern for the Christmas and New Year's holiday. Both of those holidays, Christmas and New Year's, fall on Thursday this year. We will be open Friday and Saturday afterwards. After all, we are a museum, we are a tourist attraction. So the idea used to be more like a business that we were going to close as much as we could, but no, we need to be open those days for you tourists that want to go visit something or get away from your families or just enjoy a day out. So and believe me, we're 2 hours here is plenty. We have people that do stay longer, but you can get in and out in a good hour and still know what's going on and then see the rest of your family. Or visit Space View Park on Sundays when we're closed and the holidays there. But like I said, we're going to be open, closed on Thanksgiving Thursday, Thanksgiving Christmas, Thanksgiving New Year's is on Thursday. We'll be open Friday and Saturday for your family and friends to enjoy us. Gobble, gobble, right? And that is the oldest. I don't know who that is. That's a turkey in a EVA suit, for God's sake. So Mikey Haddad will be here Monday. Okay, Mikey's going to talk about his career in America's space program. Mikey's not been on for a while because he's been so busy with the Astro 1 restoration project, and his buddies got that Astro 1 3 telescopes that were used on 2 missions in the 90s, and there were supposed to be 6 times they were going to fly it up there. And Mikey and Scott Bongen, and who would have been the 3rd astronaut to go up on Astro 3, really did a good job restoring these telescopes, and they are at the Huntsville U.S. Space and Rocket Center. And but he'll talk about that a little bit, but he wanted to share his love for the space program and thank them for his career. Mikey will be here Monday. And there's his book that he wrote on space payloads. Very interesting, with David Shaler. David Shaler is a British writer of all kinds of space adventures. Mostly he focuses on the manned crewed flights of Mercury and Gemini and Apollo. Great read, and he shared a lot of that out of there. And there's Mikey talking to Buckeye astronaut Don Thomas. And Don's got his Gene Wright made woodpecker shirt on when he did a hilarious talk. The hit talk of Shuttlefest, no doubt about it, right, Marty? But he talked about the woodpecker. One woodpecker. People say woodpeckers. There was one woodpecker that for over a weekend was looking for bugs underneath to eat underneath the ET tank foam there. So he's a great guy, good friend of the museum now. And his talk, he'd never done just a talk on the bird, the woodpecker, and it's a pileated woodpecker. So Marty, he was awesome, wasn't he? You enjoyed that, did you not? Well, I take a swig of courage here.
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I wouldn't mind hearing it again and again and again. But Mark was more than just over the weekend. It was several days.
Several birds?
No, several days.
No, yeah, several days. Yeah, it was started on a Friday, and they didn't do anything about it till they rolled it back in there. But it was just one woodpecker, which was weird. And they had 150 hours of this woodpecker destroying the tank. And I love it when Don pauses and said, just let that sink in a minute. 100 and some hours of videotape recorded and nobody doing anything about it. Well, it's a wildlife preserve. Nobody wanted to kill it. They thought they'd be put in prison forever. I mean, a lot of interesting things in that story, right, Marty?
Yeah, but Mark, things were being done. You know, we put up an artificial owl to try and scare it away. Had horns out there, air horns out there trying to scare it. So things were being done, but nothing major.
Like Terry White would have loved to put some gun sights on that little bird, and that would have took care of that. They did everything but that. BBs or something like that were thought about, I'm sure. But, of course, it's the external tank, and then they repaired it. But Don is a really an awesome human being. He is one of these earthlings out there sharing about his impression of the Earth from space, and he's out there getting it, Cleveland born, just like Mikey. There's 2 Buckeyes there, we might hear more about the Buckeyes before the show's over, so stay tuned. Last night, Marty, you probably didn't get up, but I did. It was about a quarter to 11. The 50th launch off America's space coast this year. I mean, the 100th, I'm sorry, the 100th flight of a rocket off the space coast. Most of course, are the Falcon 9 rocket with, of course, an Atlas 5 and a Delta thrown in there. But this is Carlton Bailey's streak shot. Yep, he was out streaking last night in the neighborhood, so he didn't get caught. He was complaining to me that he over lensed this with a 28 millimeter lens instead of an 18. They would have been a wider angle and gotten the tail end of it there. Just fine with me, my friend. And you see the star trail there, which that's actually the planet Jupiter, is what that bright star trail is there, Carlton. That's the bright planet Jupiter. So you could tell by that he is about a 3 to 5 minute exposure there. So the 100th launch on America's space coast, of course, a record. The record was 94 last year. We still have 6 weeks left. I think there's 20 other launches on the books before the end of the year. So the cadence is picked up. Dogs are barking in the middle of the night. Babies are crying from the noise going on. But SpaceX and our private companies are rocking and rolling. And they're beautiful to see. I got up, I don't get up for all of them, particularly in the middle of the night, but they have a rhythm to them when you've seen so many of them. And that's what I like is we'll talk about the rhythm of that orange flame turning just a cobalt blue right before it shuts off. So good job, CB. Hope you have a good weekend and keep that f-stop open on there and taking great pictures like this. Who's orbiting Earth? Like I teased you. Who tells you who's orbiting Earth? Nobody, but stay curious. So we're going to tell you here, and we'll save that for the end of the program. How many humans are orbiting Earth? How many Earthlings are off the Earth? All right, Marty, think about that. And where are they? Okay, feature of today's show is this rocket. This is a Redstone rocket, medium ballistic rocket to have warheads on it. Couldn't reach Russia, but it could certainly reach ships at sea type of thing. Here it is being fueled up. Look at the people, look at the engineers and so forth on the bottom. This is a rocket being fueled up. And the mist of the hydrogen bleeding off, just that's okay, guys. Just don't get too much of it on you. I think there's a guy right there in the middle right there, Marty, walking right through it. Would that happen today, Marty?
Never.
Heck no. Okay. What's hanging off the side of the rocket there up at the top? So anyway, we're going to tell you that on November 21st, Mercury-Redstone 1 was was assembled for the final countdown, proceeded normally, with the exception of a 1-hour hold to fix another leak in the Capitol's hydrogen peroxide system. This was Mercury Control Center was manned for the first time. And you've seen replicas of it if you've been at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. At 9 a.m., the Redstone ignition occurred precisely as scheduled. The unexpected blast momentarily churned the air around the launch pad 6, but then the roar stopped as suddenly as it had started. Watching by periscope from the blockhouse, the startled engineers saw the booster wobble slightly on its pedestal and settle back on its fins, after, at the very most, a 4 or 5 inch liftoff. Oh yeah, there it is. And I've sat in that blockhouse like you have, Marty, on a tour and seen that out the window there. Let me get my glasses on here. The Rocketdyne A7 engine shut down and the escape pylon zipped up 4,000 feet and landed 400 yards away from the launch site. 3 seconds after the escape rocket blew, the drogue package shot upward, and then the main chute spurted out of the top of the capsule, followed by the reserve chute, both fluttering alongside the Redstone as an embarrassed set of engineers were like, oh my gosh, what happened? Mercury-Redstone 1 was the most distressing, not to say the least embarrassing failure so far in Project Mercury. This was 1960, if I left that out, on today's date. 65 years ago. Critics waxed unrestrained. Even the Redstone experts seemed disconcerted. Technically, it seemed inexplicable that the normal, instead of the abort ejection sequence, had followed engine shutdown. Manager of the program, George Lowe, later said that day in his report to NASA headquarters staff on what they thought had happened. All right, what they thought had happened. Yeah, I can show you that one yet. Apparently, sufficient thrust had developed to lift the booster at least 3/32 of an inch, thereby activating all the systems. You know how much 3/32 is? 4/32 is 1/4 inch, all right? No, 1/8 inch. This would require more than 85% of nominal thrust. The booster settled back down on the pad, damaging the tail fins and perhaps the structure as well. Some wrinkles were visible on the shell. This is Lowe's report. The reason for this shutdown is unknown. The only shutdown to the booster could have come from the booster programmer at the end of the normal flight sequence. Just how this programmer malfunctioned cannot be determined without a detailed investigation. And that detailed investigation revealed this. Okay, the culprit for the failed launch was this power cable in our museum. I pulled it out of the case just a few minutes ago, which disconnected 29 milliseconds before it should have. Wow. Now you think in 1960s they can tell 29 milliseconds? Yeah. Smarter than we thought, right? Thus causing a relay to signal normal cutoff, which told the capsule to jettison the escape tower. A separate ground strap was added for subsequent launches. Everything was refurbished and returned to the pad as Mercury-Redstone 1A, which launched successfully on December 19th, 1960. But this was, all right, is that going to steal my thunder, Marty, as I'm wrapping this up here? This plaque that we're showing here that I hold in my hands was presented to launch director Dr. Kurt Debus by the launch operations crew. All right, this is the power cable that separated, and there you see it. Right, let me show it like this. There we go, right there. Separation there. Mr. Debus had this in his hands when they gave it to him, okay? And it was called the missing link. In 1960s, this was 1960, so everyone was really fascinated in the late 50s and early 60s with Homo sapien. We were discovering skeletal remains of humanoids in Africa and other places. Archaeologists were finally getting that information out. And a missing link was the missing link between apes and humanoids, okay? So it's a play on the culture of the time. This was Debus's missing link that messed up on there. So, and let's see here. So, Marty, you got a question or comment there? Or maybe a correction?
No, no correction, Mark, just two questions. The first one's from RG Jubilee. Why was all the gantries in those days bright red?
I'm sorry.
Why were the gantries bright red? It did the LUTs.
Well, don't know.
It was anti-corrosive paint. Back then, they had lead in the paints and red paint, and it was anti-corrosion.
Okay, they may just had a lot of red paint, or maybe that was the.
No, it was corrosive paint.
Oh, corrosive paint.
Anti-corrosive paint.
All right, good. Yeah, right. The corrosiveness is amazing here. I see Dean Babcock asking about the booster attached to the launch ring. I assume by large nuts and bolts. I don't know. And Steve Jokums is doubting that the wings got damaged. So That's okay, Steve. I haven't, I didn't get to read all the research stuff I wanted to before today's program, as usual. Let me see if I can flip through here some of the highlights of my notes over the years on this. We talk about this every year. Um, let's see here. In the end, all that it was launched was the escape rocket. However, the fully fueled and powered up Redstone was now sitting on LC5 with nothing securing it to the pad. Various other dangers existed, such as the capsule's retro rocket package and range safety destruct charges. Furthermore, the main and reserve chutes were hanging down the side of the rocket, threatening to tip it over if caught enough by the wind. This did not occur, however, as conditions did remain calm. Let me put an image up there. There we go. Give you some more details there. Amid the panic atmosphere in the control room, used for the first time, by the way, the launch team was unable to come up with quick and viable options to rectify the situation. Flight Director Chris Kraft, rejected several unsafe interventions, including using a rifle to shoot holes in the booster's propellant tanks to depressurize them. Holy cow. He eventually took the advice of one of the test engineers to simply wait out the battery discharge and let the oxidizer boil off. This early test failure and subsequent panic led Chris Kraft to declare that, quote, "That is the first rule of flight. If you don't know what to do, don't do anything." Interesting. Technicians waited until the next morning when the flight batteries in the rocket and capsule had run down and Redstone's liquid oxygen had boiled off before they could work on the rocket and render it safe. Okay. The cable had been clamped to compensate for its greater length, but it was actually too short. All right. And it didn't work as planned. They clamped it off too short. I want to see if it said anything about any damage to it there on the ring. The Redstone had suffered some minor damage falling back to the pad, but it could still be used after refurbishment, so it was returned to Marshall Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, and held in reserve. And then, like we said, they eventually planned it there. So you all can dig into the internet and figure out some of that minutia details about it there. But my detail is, who has a piece of this rocket? And the part that failed? Nobody but us, okay? Right there. The Debus missing link there. And here is the Redstone rocket. It is in a very obscure place, Marty. Let me see if I can find that real quick, where it is housed at. Of course, McDonnell Aircraft made it. Let me see here. I got a couple sources here, not all Wikipedia. I thought they'd say where it was at here. Let's see. It is at Lewis Hangar oh no, it's not. NASA Ames Exploration Center is where it's at. NASA Ames Exploration Center. Where's that at, Jokums? Moffett Federal Airfield near Mountain View, California. Okay. So, what an interesting chapter of history. Can you just imagine, Marty, you're in that control room for the first time. Chris Kraft is running things for the first time. You're all excited. You want to see a suborbital flight testing some of these things that have to be tested in 1960. You've got 7 astronauts watching this probably on the property from somewhere, because they're going to be riding one of these things one day. And they're probably over at Hangar S, hanging out, having a beer. 9 in the morning. No, they weren't having a beer. Okay, because it was 9 in the morning. Having some tang is what they were having. I'll stick with that. And it flopped out like that. So that happened today. A great story in the Annals of Space History. Okay, yeah, something that and the escape tower. There were some good things that come out of the escape tower. Worked just fine and was found, a quarter mile away. Crushed. It came down, by the way, an arrow. I've seen pictures of it in the sand out there. So, what a great day of history here. So, hope that you've all enjoyed that. MR1's failure with the missing link, that's separated too soon, milliseconds too soon. In 1960s, we figured it all out and launched again. The same thing. All right, I'm going to the Rocket Ranch reunion. Privileged to be invited to that to represent the museum. With there'll be a couple hundred space workers there. Might be an astronaut or two. I pretty much know that Eileen Collins is going to be there. It's not open to the public. It's space workers only, and a few lucky ones like me invited. But this is the way. Just hours ago, what our Karen Conklin Women's in Space Gallery looks like, with the new edition in the back of Chris Callie's new masterpiece that he calls Commander. Is Chris on today?
Yeah, yes.
All right. So,
Just said go blue.
there's some crazy person on there is hijacked as go blue. That's what Goulardi would say on the Cleveland radio. He was the shock horror jock there. Yeah, go blue, turn blue. All right, go blue. You started it. I'll finish it. Go scarlet and gray. Okay, the big game coming up here a week from Saturday between University of that team up north and Ohio State. So look at what we did, Chris. We put Commander up there. We got your name in about a 8-point font with Eileen's up there in a 50-point font. Put her mission patches around there. How you like that, Marty? Does that look like a good display or what?
Oh yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, and we have this picture is Eileen's polo shirt there. That's a size large, ladies. That's Kathy Thornton's flight work clothes, so to speak. Nicole Stott's sleeping bag that she used on the ISS, and 2 pairs of her shoes. One, the treadmill shoes that got a cleat, like treadmill shoes just like regular tennis shoes, and then she's got bicycle shoes that have a cleat in there that's stuck into the pedal to go around. So our women's galleries, like most of our galleries in the American Space Museum, are being buffed up constantly. I've got a good team helping me here with Najma and Raj and Marty. You're a board of directors member here. We doing the right thing? Let everybody know.
Without a doubt, Mark, you are. We are.
Thank you. It's important that we do keep things fresh, but I don't think anyone else has got a sleeping bag that an astronaut actually slept in for 3 months on display. And this is actually a Russian sleeping bag. So can't wait to show it off. And of course, in the foreground are the bronze handprints of, to lower is Kathy Sullivan. In the middle is Eileen Collins. And at the end is Sally Ride. And again, I say it over and over, we have things that nobody else has, and when you visit us, you get us and understand that we're doing the best we can with a limited amount of nonprofit resources. I'll tell you that right now. So anyway, I love how that came together. That is Mark and Tom Usiak photographs of STS-114, the return to flight. Chris is a master now at these montages. He throws a lot of what artists call Easter eggs of things in the bottom there of her career and maybe things of not her career. And we will have this, Dave Stange, available for sale as soon as Chris Callie makes it happen. And but no, we will be selling Callie artwork definitely after the first of the year. We have talked a lot about renovating our space store, and we are going to do that, but I didn't want to do it half-assed. I wanted it to be done professionally and not by a bunch of us retired folks that hadn't picked up a skill saw in 6 months and no, we're going to do this and so forth. So I got some people that are going to do it, and we're going to do it as soon as we can with the money that you've given us to do this. So thank you very much. There's Nikki's shoes in there. Is that a good brand name? ASEX, and I forget what the other one is in there. but pretty quality stuff there. We put up a nice little, that blue up there is about her missions. She went up on 128, came back on 129 after 90 days on the space station, expeditions 20 and 21. And then she spent another 10 days in space on the last flight of Discovery in 133. So love it. Love it there. So, Marty, you were going to say something?
No.
Okay. I'll take it off. They'll turn the channel off if I don't. And by the way, I do have some pretty blue on, don't I? Don't I look good in blue, Marty? That ain't Michigan blue. That's outer space blue, okay? But we got this picture Steve Jokums made a few years back. We'll tell you exactly when, of the flight crew trainer that was the real deal at Johnson Space Center. Yesterday, we had this slide up there by Bert Dick. Please go watch Bert's show. Where was Bert? Actually, and Monday we did Nick Thomas. If you forgot about him and didn't see that show, Nick spent an hour and a half just answering questions from you all about cool things. So this is where it was in Houston, and now it's at the Museum of Flight in Seattle. And after Steve said he didn't watch us live, but then he couldn't wait to see the rerun, and we have over 1,100 Stay Curious episodes on our YouTube channel. Well, he said back in 2018, he and his wife Pat, oh no, he was there in 2012. Yeah, you were in Seattle in June of 2012. Shortly, and they got a chance to go inside this. All right, and that's what Bert was saying, that it was a special tour. You couldn't take pictures. You were given an hour debrief of what not to touch and so forth. And this is Steve's picture of it there. And he said, my wife Pat and I got to go inside the FFT. I can't overstate what a personal joy it was to finally go on board and in an orbiter. Even though it was only a trainer, it was the trainer used by every astronaut, okay, who flew the shuttle. So he feels like close enough. And he was surprised to hear that the Museum of Flight wasn't allowing any photography, because his photos and GoPro videos are my permanent record of that event. And here's a couple. He's got a link on YouTube. So Steve Jokums got a YouTube channel there, so you can see this. And I didn't watch that, didn't have time, but he says he got emotional on the deck, thinking about, as a space geek, all of his astronaut heroes being in there, and who wouldn't, he said. So here's the look inside the payload bay. All right, that would be cool to actually walk down it and get a feel of how big it was. There's his wife, Pat, in the foreground, and then looking in the other direction. How cool is that? All right. Now, this is in 2012, Steve says. Let's see, he's a 2016. Oh, it came to Seattle in June 2012. Okay. And he initially told me 2026. And I knew he wasn't in the future. So 2016 is when he was there. And 2012 is when it came to Seattle from Houston. And I saw the fuselage trainer in Building 9 at Houston in like 2018 when Steve said he and his wife Pat were there. So let's look inside there. Nice little hatch. That's always kind of what I wanted to see, was getting inside and out, and the little cramped space. And then you go in, and wow, it's a whole other world inside of there. That's our green screen there. Think of all the astronauts that had their hands on those controls. It looks like they're covered up with some plastic on there. And thanks for sharing this, Steve Jokums. And here, there's the center board there. Just a lot to learn. A lot to learn. And Marty looked inside the lunar module that had quite an array of how many How many dials and toggle switches and stuff did you count in that lunar module, Marty?
I never counted them, but between the circuit breakers and switches and dials and meters, I think it was 500.
And here I think it's a couple thousand.
Yeah, 2,000. Yeah.
Yeah, if memory serves me right. In there. Way cool. And there's Steve with Bob Alexander, who was a docent at the time. Hope Bob's still around. He's a retired structural engineer from Lockheed who worked on the Hubble telescope. And there is Steve there. And thank you so much. He's got Tim Gagnon finished that patch that Bob Robert McCall did, started and then died in the middle of that 133 patch, which is another tie to Nicole Stott. Okay. And so thank you for sharing that, Steve. I'm going to share some of my journeys to some space museums, though some of them are 8 or 10-year-old photos. Some does change and others don't. But yeah, I'm looking at a couple comments there. Yeah, Carlton says it's unfortunate Kennedy Space Center doesn't have a better mock-up to sit in. I mean, I don't understand why they don't have better mock-ups of the lunar module that you could get in and come on, play with. We let people flip our switches literally over here in our Cape Canaveral gallery because you have to pull them out to flip them. That's one of the things that kids learn right away is there was a safety latch built in there. So, and just, just a really, like I said, I'd like to stand in a lunar module and look out that triangular window instead of looking through a glass window and looking through it. As I recall, Houston has a similar, I think they do have one you can stand up sort of in one of their galleries, but, and love to sit in a Apollo command module. Now, they do have a pretty good one of that at Houston's, I believe. That I sat in, but you know what I'm talking about. People want to get hands-on and stuff like that. So, what are we talking about there? Janet Gretsch there. Thank you for watching. The predictability, she says, of sending the shuttle up into orbit and then bringing it back down to the cradle is a masterclass in management of heavy theory and actual operability. Amen to that. And Dean Babcock likes your jacket there, Steve. He'd like to know your tailor. All right, so you guys share that here. So thank you, Steve Jokums. And like I said, you all got a little tour that you want to show us like Bert Dick does when he comes on here. He was in Seattle. He was a couple places he shared yesterday on there. Let us see it. My email is marq@americanspacemuseum.org. All right, who is orbiting Earth? Let's clear the deck here. Oh, by the way, Steve, yes, I did have a little more scarlet to share with you all out there, okay? Yes, sirree. The Ferrari 6-time champion hat of the great Michael Schumacher. He won it 7 times. But thank you for this, Stephen. It's one of my cherished events, and wish we were in Las Vegas, but Las Vegas Strip is where the Formula One racers, the greatest vehicles, speed vehicles, and drivers in the world will be going 220 miles an hour down the strip, Marty, and then break down to 60 miles an hour within 300 feet from 220 to 60 miles an hour and make a hard left-hand turn at the beginning of the grid there in Formula One racing. The race is 11 o'clock Saturday night in qualifying and practice 3 and qualifying's tonight. So I'll be watching it, as I know you will be, Steve. All right. Who's orbiting Earth? How many humans are orbiting the globe? Okay. Well, you ought to know it by now. It's 10. All right. We have 3 on the Shenzhou 21 on the Tiangong space station, which is about, it's about 2 buses put together. It's not very big. And I don't think it's as big as the Mir space station. And then our International Space Station is about 7 or 8 school buses put together, Greyhound buses, if you will. So we've got 7 on the International Space Station, including a crew that's going to be swapped out pretty soon, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And then the Dragon Crew 11 is on board. 640 humans have orbited the Earth in all eternity, as the late Hugh Harris, public affairs officer and voice of NASA, would say on this program. And 83 of them are women, and that's why we celebrate women. I do have somebody that said they were kind of adverse to us celebrating women in a special room. Where do you celebrate the men? I said, that's the rest of the museum, for gosh sakes, okay? It's sort of like asking a guy saying, well, they have girls' night out, Marty. When are we going to have guys' night out? Oh, that's right. They call that sports. Okay. Or sports bar in there. Not that women don't enjoy sports, but that's where guys usually get together, is around sports. So let's find out what's going on with these people up there. Shenzhou 21 got up there on, this is an older slide, October 31st. They were launched on Halloween. You got Zhang, Wu, and Zhang up there. Zhang, Wu, Zhang. How about that? In fact, the one guy on the right, his name's Zhang Hong Zhang. All right. That's a lot of fun to say. So you got Zhang Lu, Wu Fi, and Zhang Hong Zhang up there. And they have been up there. So that's about 22 days they've been up there, okay? Zhang Lu on the left-hand side, he's been up there over 120 days. 200 days. This is his second trip to the Tiangong space station. The other two are rookies. They're going to stay up for about 6 months, probably come back sometime in May or June. That's the routine. And then this Tiangong's getting a little long in the tooth, you know. There's talk that they're ready to launch a new space station, much bigger and of course up to date. Interesting thing about the Tiangong space station, Marty, is they have incorporated Bluetooth communications in it as much to get away from all the wires and things that you see in the space station. But the space station wasn't set up with all those loose wires and stuff. They keep adding things to more data, more experiments, need more computers and so forth. But the Chinese space station, they're trying to go as wireless as they can on everything. And then we've got launched August 1st in 2025. So they're August, September, October, November. So they've been up there about 3.5 months now. They got their sea legs. They're about halfway through their mission. This is a SpaceX Crew 11. Zena Cardman is up there. I don't know who's the commander of the space station right now. Who knows that? Let us know who is commanding the space station. I'm going to say it's one of the Russians on the MS-27 up there. Zena Cardman was the commander of the Crew Dragon that went up there. She's a rookie. And as is a rookie of Oleg, the Russian on the other side. Our agreement with Russia is when their Soyuz spacecraft go to the ISS, they have to have at least one American astronaut. And when we send up the 4 crew on the SpaceX Crew Dragon, there has to be at least one Russian on there. Now, the actual signed agreement has passed, okay, but they're still honoring that, and I think a new agreement is being hammered out. Little difficulty with Russians' involvement in a war with Ukraine and the change to our administrations from Biden to Trump, but still space is a place where borders and culture and are just not thought about as much as they can. They are earthlings, all right, orbiting a planet, and they are being kept alive by their spacesuit, by the space stations they're in. So, but Michael Fink, nicknamed Spanky, this is his 3rd trip to the International Space Station. He's logged almost 500 days. He has eclipsed 500 days, it looks like, up there. And he has Rupert in his duffel bag somewhere. Who's Rupert, y'all say? Rupert is the space armadillo that is the mascot for our friends at the Sands Space History Museum out by Port Canaveral. by the cruise ships at the entrance to the Space Force. And they did send a Rupert up there, not a real armadillo. It is a stuffed animal that they sell left and right. And he's supposed to take it up to the cupola. And because of the government shutdown, they weren't working out there for 6 weeks. So hopefully we'll find word that Rupert is floating around the cupola one day up there. And I'm sure he will before Spanky comes back. Actually, let's see what's going to happen with this crew. They're going to stay up there until early 2026. It could be a 6-month long instead of 5 months. They are part of Expedition 74 that's going to go into Expedition 75. Crew 12 has already been chosen. There is a French woman on board, 43 years old, a rookie, Sophie, and Oleg Artmov, his 4th trip to space. He is going to be the Russian participant, and the other 2 crew members are yet to be announced on there. Oh my gosh. All right, that's interesting. Chris Calley said there's a hidden Wolverine in the Eileen Collins montage. Not anymore. That's what red markers are for, okay? And he's saying if you mark that Wolverine off with a marker, I'll kill you. So I'll be looking for that. I was looking for some things yesterday when I was looking at how I could make that improve it. But do you like it? Do you like it, Chris? How we've it's just snaps. That was the color we needed in that room. It's beautiful, as all of Chris's work is on there. All right, what else is going on there? Okay, who's in space? So they're going to stay up there till at least I'm going to say April. And then the Crew Dragon 12 will launch in early 2026. All right, they've been up to August, September, October, November, December, January. No, I'm wrong. Yeah, it's probably in the mid-February that they're going to come back in there. So we'll get our arms around that. I didn't have a chance to research all that like I wanted to today. So, and I count on some of you to do that for me. All right, final mission that we're going to talk about is MS-27. Okay. Oh, and I got to go back to the Chinese here in a minute, and I will. MS-27 is been up there now since April 2025. April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So they've been up there 7 months. Very long mission up there. In 7.5 months now. They are scheduled to come back after the MS-28 crew goes up and docks with the space station on Thanksgiving Day. Wow, they're talking about Thanksgiving Day doing that. My information was right there. I'm on my phone. Cosmonauts Sergey and NASA astronaut Christopher Williams will dock to the module of the International Space Station, the Rosvet module. And I don't know, I think Christopher's a rookie. We'll get into that and check that out. But Thanksgiving Day, that'll be exciting. They're going to launch probably the day before and dock with the International Space Station. And then this crew will come back in 3 or 4 days after that, maybe a week. All right. So awesome. Just a tremendous activity going on. And now you know a little bit about what's going on. And we'll get on to some of that. But also I see that what they do when they do take a new crew up there, they leave the other crew up there to acclimate them for a day or two. Or actually, it's more like about 5 days. Safety, of course, is the first business they go through when the new crews dock and so forth. So 10 humans orbiting the Earth. Now, we had a situation where Shenzhou 20 There was the crew that was on Tiangong for 6 months. We're going to come back in their Shenzhou 20 spaceship. And guess what? It had got hit by space debris. There's some impact damage that we're told is visual. Okay. China's not releasing where the damage is and so forth. Of course, communist country, they don't want to shed bad light on anything going on. So the Shenzhou 20 crew came back in Shenzhou 21's spacecraft. That was only up there 5 days, fresh as could be. So these guys technically don't have a spacecraft to rescue them. Or if they do, keep your fingers crossed, because we didn't think it was good enough to take the 6 month crew back. And you guys, but if it's an emergency, I guess they'd have to do it. So here's what China's doing, something that America's never done before. And you know what? We couldn't do this when Sonny and Butch were up there. Maybe we could have. But let's think about this. China's going to launch Shenzhou 22 uncrewed to replace the Shenzhou 20 that was damaged. Okay? So they're going to launch it on, the window opens up Monday. And, autonomous docking and all that. That'll be probably a good demonstration that they're going to then dock it. So then they will send Shenzhou. So the 21 crew will actually come back in a fresh Shenzhou 22, I mean, that didn't have any people on board. And they'll probably just put Shenzhou 20 with a bunch of their garbage and dirty clothes and spent computers and stuff like that in it and let it re-enter into the Earth's atmosphere. Or will they try to make it re-enter safely, Marty, so they can check out the anomaly? That's what I would do. I would load it with garbage and the ballast and stuff like that I'm sure they need to do, and then land it. So this is an interesting technical thing that's going to happen, because when Butch and Sonny Williams got stuck up on the space station with the Starliner not working, there must have been an option thinking about sending an uncrewed Dragon up there. But they didn't, and they ended up staying up there almost 9 months instead of 8 days. So some interesting drama will play out, and I'll get all over that over the weekend so we can talk about that Monday. Mikey's on Monday. Tuesday, I have a group of magnet fishermen coming in, Marty. I don't think I told you that. There's a podcast about fishermen that fish with magnets, kind of like the minesweepers, so to speak, that are on the beaches where people are looking for their jewelry and rings and stuff like that. They go out in the ocean or off the banks of rivers and stuff and try to find what's in there, metal they can drag up. And they want me to be on their podcast, and then they're going to be on mine here on. So we'll take care of that. And Wednesday, trying to get the Wednesday there, end it with Terry White coming in and talking about some thermal protection system parts that were given to us. And I suppose, Marty, you want to have a show on Friday, Thanksgiving after Friday? Or we'll talk about that. We may not have a show on Friday ourselves.
I would recommend skipping it.
You got a lot to do?
No, maybe
No?
play some golf.
Okay. All right, we'll talk about it. So, all right, great. Now that's what's going on in space. That's who's in space. 10 humans. Go ahead. What do you got there, Marty?
Dean Babcock is asking, is the Chinese space station in the same orbital inclination as the Mir was?
Boy, I don't know, Dean. Marty, you?
No, no idea.
I'm going to say no, because that is determined by where on latitude on the Earth that you're launching from. And there's obviously a sweet spot to get all of the Earth's rotation into that. That's why we launched to the west, is we're actually gaining 1,100 miles an hour in speed, because that's how far the Earth That's how fast the Earth is spinning, about 1,100 miles an hour to the east. So actually, when you go off of it, you've got that momentum going on for you. If you go to the east, you're fighting it if you go to the west. So I don't know, but that's something I'll look up. And yes, Janet, every mission should have one lifeboat, in an ideal world, obviously. And the lifeboat for the International Space Station, once called Freedom, was going to be the Hermes European spacecraft, and then it was going to be the Sierra um, Dream Chaser. Both looked like mini space shuttles that could hold a few people. Neither one of those I mean, the Dream Chaser's been in development 10 years, that has not flown in orbit yet, and is now going to be a cargo ship and not occupied. So, absolutely, it is literally, I think this is what will be harshly judged by 100, 200 years from now, is that we did not have backup systems of crewed spacecraft. Okay. I wish we had a Apollo spacecraft in a hangar somewhere, fresh, ready to go, and they could have brought Sonny and Butch back within 10 days or something like that. It was a tried and true spacecraft that then we just stopped using it. Okay, we're not going to do that anymore. All right, Marty, what do you got there, buddy?
Yeah, the Mir space station was at a higher inclination than the Chinese. It was an inclination where they can cover more than 85% of the Earth's surface.
All right, thanks, Jim McDade. That and Cliff Watson. Yes, you ever heard about people fishing with heavy-duty magnets? We're going to hear about that on Tuesday. So good. I've got the smartest viewers, Marty, watching on any podcast out there. I guarantee you. And thank you for being attracted. We are small in numbers, but mighty in our brain power. I guarantee it. So. All right. Just want to thank everybody for watching today, and want to thank Steve Jokums for watching, and thank you for adding to the show. Doug Forrest today. Dougie, got to give you a phone call. Hope things are going well with you as you roll into the holidays there in the Los Angeles area. Mitch Rothman in Colorado. We'll be talking to Mitch right beside me in December sometime. Dr. Keith Sewell's in Arkansas, doing great education work up there in astronomy and other things. Mostly Parked, thank you for chiming in today. Dave Stange, Chris Calley, the great artist Chris Calley, and a graduate of that team up north from Ohio. Tom Usiak, Pennsylvania. What happened to your Nittany Lions? Holy cow! They were number one when the season started, and they've lost 5 games, I think. Cliffy Watson, hope you're feeling good, better, buddy, down there in Australia. Dean Babcock. John the Beagle Dad, all right. Glad you're watching today. Rosalie Jubilee, always enjoy her comments. She gets excited with this show every day, and we appreciate that. And Carlton Bailey, thank you for sharing your streaking last night. Freeway of Other. And Janet Gretsch, all new people that have found that they just can't get along without it, right? So from day to day. So what have I got up there to go out with? Oh yeah, take the hat off and let everybody know how many days is the moon. All right, the moon is 2 days old, a couple days after new phase. So you're going to see it, be lucky to see it tonight, but more likely tomorrow night is a fingernail, beautiful in your night sky in the west. I hope it's clear where you're at. And don't forget that those stars are beckoning you. Go outside, get a little star shine. It ain't going to hurt you. I think you get mesmerized and know what's going on in the sky. And when you look, by the way, that blue band for November is the Milky Way. You go out where it's dark, you will see the Milky Way high over the western sky, slowly dipping down in the horizon. It'll be gone by about 11 o'clock, but from when it's dark at 6 o'clock to 8, you can see it very well. And the planet Saturn is in the south. There's 2 stars in the south, by them apart by about this much, let's say. The top one is Saturn. The other one is Fomalhaut. The lonely one is called. in the southern fishes. And about, like I said, that lunch last night was 10, about almost 11 o'clock. By 11 o'clock, you're going to see a super bright star looking to the east. That is the planet Jupiter that I'll be talking and sharing with you about later this winter. So thank you all for watching. Thank you, our sponsors, Hyatt Place out there. If you come on into the museum and want to donate some peanut butter and jelly or canned food, we'll make sure it gets off to everybody there. We're going to be open Friday and Saturday after Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. And Mikey Haddad will be here Monday to bridge the space between us. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for participating like Steve Jokums does, all right? And can't thank you all enough for how important your role is here at the American Space Museum. So, and there goes a War Eagle to Auburn Tigers. I'll give you that, Jim McDade. And so you all have a great weekend. Get outside. It's not going to be too cold, I hope, where you're at. Get your favorite beverage, a pair of binoculars. Go out a little after sunset. You won't believe the satellites that are going overhead. And maybe there might be some little alien wave at you like I am now, saying thank you for watching. I'm Mark Marquette, and I can't wait to see you with Mikey Haddad on Monday to bridge the space between us. Take care.